the sea could contribute to an effective maritime transport integration in the logistic chain.
Another MEP question that was asked the other day was when there are going to be really detailed statistics on the effectiveness of the motorways of the seas in order to better gauge the results.
Okay, I can answer in my capacity of leading the consortium. First of all, it's quite important to mention that data and data gathering is a key part of the detailed implementation plan. So we started 3 months ago, and we have in our consortium the Institute for Shipping and Logistics from Bremen. They are quite well known and specialized in data gathering. And what we did already, that is already here, this is already here in the detailed implementation plan 2016, it is a number of data demonstrating the overview of the shipping operation in Europe, but more than that, also an examples of how we are going to profile all the ports in Europe. Meaning that for all of them, specifically core and comprehensive ports, talking about trans-European network, we are going to provide a number of data and technical parameters that are related to trade traffic, sea connection, interland traffic. This is very important in terms of future understanding and future possibility for Mr. Brian Simpsons also to select development priority based on reliable and quality data. This is an ongoing process. The next step will end of 2016. So we can be more, let's say, broad in terms of number of data that will be provided, more than what is already there that can be useful to be seen as an example. And last point I would like to mention that already in the DIP, the 9 core network corridors are shown with real market data showing the existing connections between all the ports in the different sections of the core network corridors. This is already a picture of the state-of-the-art of what Motorway of the Sea is, and obviously it's the starting point for what Motorways of the Sea could be.
Thank you. In looking at the whole logistic chain, of course, ports are extremely important, and a couple of MEPs, for example, Jacinda Meissner of Germany, Michael Kramer of Germany, were interested to know more about what ports need to play their role fully in the system. But they also picked up on things like the lack of port reception facilities around Europe for oily water separation or garbage, things that perhaps a lot of people imagined that were taken care of, issues that were taken care of long ago. And someone made the comment that actually very few ports around Europe have adequate reception facilities. So, number one, is that true? And secondly, a wider question, from the port perspective, what now needs to be done quickly so that terminals can play their part in this as well?
Working now. Okay, thank you very much for the question. From our perspective, we are an institution that is inserted in the Spanish port system. We are working in concrete from the Port of Valencia ecosystem of organizations and companies. So before entering in detail in the answer, I want to say that we have been lucky. In these past 6 years, we have collaborated in several Motorways of the Sea initiatives, and our contribution has been in the 3 pillars, different initiatives, different projects. But for the ports, most importantly than our contribution as a concrete organization is the fact that Motorways of the Sea has offered us a way to work together with all the ecosystem of companies and different interests that cohabit in a port system. And this is important because normally the challenges, and some of them were mentioned by you, but normally the challenges that we live in the ports are not challenges for the port authority, are not challenges for a concrete actor, are challenges that have to be solved in a communitary mood and way. And many times these Motorways of the Sea initiatives have allowed us to form these groups that work together and that share the challenge and the definition of the solution, that are able to prototype, to pilot things, to come to solutions. And in our experience, we have been able to involve several companies focused on concrete objectives, and we have created the habit, the positive habit of developing the problems and looking for solutions and sharing the information and measuring the effects of what was designed and defined. And many times to put people together to think is not easy, because we are not easy thinking together. And for us, Motorways of the Sea, apart from other things, has the beauty that allows many people in the port ecosystem to sit together and to think about solutions and to share the problems and define the prototypes and see real definitions for these solutions. We have plenty of examples. We have participated with Alessio and with other companies and we have measured and we have come out with these projects with around 5 million of co-founded 5 million euros of co-found that produced for each euro 27 euros of net benefit in the next 10 years. We have been disciplined to measure from a quantifiable perspective what were the results. And at the end, what we think the beauty of all these Motorways of the Sea is that we have created a positive habit between the different actors in the port ecosystem to focus and to solve concrete challenges and to measure the results of that solutions. And if we cannot afford to lose that positive habit. So for us is critical the continuity of the program to the future, because more important than the number of euros that we will earn by the concrete initiatives is that we have created a group and a way of working together that can solve a lot of problems. So from our perspective, this is the important message for the future, that we need a bigger and stronger Motorways of the Sea initiative, because everything that has been created in terms of people working together and people thinking together is the most valuable thing that we have achieved for the future.
Thank you. Of course, there has been an impression among some people in the past that when European programs tried to take into account the maritime sector, that it did so up until the point of the sea itself and stopped. And there's been a lot of concentration on ports, but until now perhaps not quite so much on the ships themselves, because it's been taken for granted that ships, well, it's not like rail that needs government investment. There's a shipping industry out there, and it will sort of do whatever it has to do. And to that extent, I think it's been taken for granted sometimes. There have been outstanding examples of pioneer shipping companies that have seen the potential of this program, like Stena, like Grimaldi, that we've heard from. But in fact, I think sometimes that's been a rarity, and that as pioneers, you haven't always been followed in interest by the greater part of the shipping community. But I think that's changing. And we have two representatives on the panel who are really from that side of things. Helen, who is representing Zero Vision Tool in the north, who is working with 130 different companies on 20 different projects. And Panagiotis, who is working with the Europa ship plan in the south, which I think has already got something like 40 very, very solid expressions of interest from companies for participating in this scheme once it is successful in securing finance to go ahead with the renewal of the fleet. So perhaps we could hear from you about, what are the problems that you see in actually turning this increase in interest from the shipping industry itself to actually achieve the priorities and potential of the Motorway of the Seas project. And I see Panos has got the mic, but like a true Greek gentleman, he's sort of tempted to hand it to the ladies first. No? Oh, he's going to go ahead.
Okay.
So we're hearing from the south first. Well, and I should say that it's also impressed me that also for the first time, to my knowledge, there is a real effort to integrate the north and the south as well, that the two sides have come together in their grand projects to try to coordinate to an extent which I'm not aware of as having been done before, which I think is a great sign.
Thank you, Nigel, for the question. I think that we all agree that shipping now, especially social shipping, is facing huge challenges. And I would like to name them challenges and not threats, because we have to be optimistic about the future and come with something very good out of it and create win-to-win challenges, not only for shipping, but also for the shipbuilding industry and also in general for the European citizens. The challenges are well known, the 2020 sulfur cap in the Mediterranean Sea, some new regulations that we expect about the NOx, the CO2, the particles, the ballast water treatment, the MRV. So shipping needs a lot of replacements. And the same applies also for ports, but if I give you an example about the Greek situation, we will be more than happy with 50 million for the port of Piraeus in order to deploy LNG as fuel and have it there for the vessels, but we will need more than 10 times this amount of money so that we have the first critical mass of vessels that they will use LNG or they will be compatible with these new regulations. And I'm really happy that as Stefano Aki announced, this new EIB financing tool will be available very soon, so that all these owners can see whether they can be eligible and get financing from these new tools. But I have to stress out that it's not one size that fits all. And since we have huge difference, the shipowners from the south, from the shipowners from the north. For instance, we have more than 1,300 vessels with an average age of 25 years. And we are talking mainly for renewal, not for re-engine or for retrofits. And it is totally different thing to finance somebody for a new vessel or to finance somebody if he cannot present other securities, or if the vessels that he now possesses are not highly valued so that can be seen as securities or another sorts of collateral. But let's see what this EIB financing tool will be, and I think that it can overcome the difficulty of the commercial banks to finance social shipping. And as we are discussing with several of them, we have seen that the majority of them, they have a threshold, let's say 30,000 tons of weight. Below that threshold, they are not keen to finance the vessels because for those kind of vessels, the performance is not known. There are no dedicated key performance indicators like for Supramax or for Aframax or VLCCs. If you go to Clarksons, you cannot find this kind of information. What is the second-hand price? What is the performance of those vessels? So no bank is willing to undertake the risk. But I think that with this coverage by EIB and the Juncker Plan, this can be solved. And also, one thing I would like also to mention is that we think that through the financial blending, we cannot distort the competition. We are not talking about grants, we are talking about loans, guarantees, and possibly for some cases we could use some assistance through grants, through the cohesion or the general core or the regional funds. And I think that this is the way forward for the majority of the schools.
Thank you. Hello? An old hand.
Thank you so much. Yes. Yes, as you mentioned, Nigel, it's 130 different organizations collaborating in 20 different projects in the north, and it's over 9 different countries that are collaborating. And the most important part is the ship owners, it's the ports, it's the contractors, and most importantly also customers that are involved. We started in late 2011, and every quarter each of the projects supply information on their progress regarding regulation, on the vessel themselves, on the infrastructure and financing issues. If there are more research and development questions, they are also supporting that. So they are doing a tremendous work, and I'm impressed every day. So I'm no one, really, the industry is. These information reports are then supplied to regulators and also as input to different organizations within the EU. The important part here is that these reports have so far, from the beginning, been infrastructure issues, the hen and the egg, and that was in 2012. And very luckily we had Motorways of the Sea to go and ask for grants to start up pilots in our area. And it was pilots in LNG, it was in methanol, as you heard before, and also scrubber technology. They parts of the infrastructure problems and doing that together, which is very impressive, I think. Later on, the information was that the struggle were regulations because when they started and actually implementing these things, regulation wasn't really in place. New things needed to be discussed, as we've been hearing here before as well. And now, the next issue will be the financial mechanism, as we heard. And the one that is proposed from the north is actually to look into the extra cost. So it's not that you want to implement and build new ships, because you can still. It's actually building green ships or actually investing in green ports, and the extra cost there, it's much higher. So what is proposed is to have a temporary solution where the green investment will be the new normal. However, while doing that, we still need to have the grants for the pilots to continue to develop. And we need to have other solutions. So I'm very happy to hear the EIB with the new products. But then again, there need to be different types of solutions, because nothing can be like one only solution. It depends on what trade you have. It depends on what types of ships you have. It depends on which port location you have. So it's to offer different solutions. So again, it's the financial mechanisms that are the next step to actually try to implement this green and safe transport mode. And by that also strengthen the competitiveness of Europe, strengthen all the job opportunities that this implies. We heard several good numbers before, so I don't have to repeat that. So yes, it's the industry that needs to do it, and they are willing to do it. It's important to remember. So the support that can be given in grants or in different types of financial instruments is the next step. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's a very good point, because we talk about shipping's ability to satisfy a need of society and a need for sustainable transport intra-Europe. But sometimes we forget that it's actually a big industry in itself, the maritime industry in itself, and that's sometimes overlooked and forgotten. And when I said I thought it was a visionary project, one of the reasons for that is I think it's actually a project that will be the fulcrum for capitalizing on a real European center of expertise, because Europe has always been a leader in maritime. It's got the traditional know-how, but it's also a leader thanks partly to the MOS program in new technology and new environmental solutions. I think it leads the world in R&D in these areas, and it can be an export industry for Europe in its own right. So I think that's part of the picture too. I think probably we're sort of starting to get to the end because we're already over time, but one thing that I would be very interested in hearing your comment about, perhaps Jose first, was that Manuel Grimaldi said that, because we're discussing the very important matter of money, Mr. Grimaldi said that the amounts required to make this into a reality, although they may sound quite high, are actually a drop in the bucket compared with the kind of infrastructure which is needed in other modes of transport. And personally, I think that's correct. So, do you share that view? And is the maritime motorway of the sea a value proposition, a good value use of funds economically?
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
They work for me.
Obviously, yeah, but you are a master of all trades, so you can domesticate them. No, thank you very much for that. Let me just abuse of having the microphone and just say two things. First of all, be truthful and transparent to our people. Is that the wardrobe closes at 2 p.m. Okay, so first thing. So it's at your risk and peril. Now, the second thing is about people and supporting the, let's say, the human way part of it. I don't like very much the word, but the human tissue. Those that are backing us up, those that are making this project happen, and those that, of course, not me, are responsible for the failures, especially that. So that is INEA mainly. So it's the team, Morten Jensen, Jakob, Jarek Kotowski, and of course Sofia Papantoniada, that after destroying all the proposals, this is moving now to innovation, where she will still destroy more proposals, so she likes it. It's a bit inspired by the Trojan War, she destroys everything. So, and welcome to Alberto and Antonio. Well, he's a newcomer, so he's not responsible, he's virginal, so it's okay, but Antonio is also part of the crime. I will not mention your name because you are a big sinner. So, but those are the guys you have to try and keep up with, because they will be your connection to a more efficient bureaucracy. Okay, that's very important. How to get access to funds. So these are important people. Now, coming back to what you were saying, I would just like to say this. I've never heard in my life such an inspiring holistic vision, like, for instance, the one of Emmanuel coming out and showing what it is. Sorry. Emmanuel, I was trying not to speak very loud about you, but okay, it's such an inspiring vision of a head of an enterprise coming here and being allowed to reveal, the way he views transportation in the world. How many people in railways undertakings can say that? Usually they speak about the price of the tickets. That's all. So I think that this shows a little bit the tissue, as well as Stena that came forward. It's a deputy CEO and is coming forward showing a vision in terms of investment, in terms of changing sustainability. So, and of course, Greece, I mean, everybody says Greece is not there, but they came to the point. How best to connect, it's an archipelago state, how best to connect all the islands, if not with shorter shipping, and being able to move into sustainable shipping, so chapeau. So it's really my appreciation for what you have done. So again, as I said, I just hope to be of service, and having helped together with Brian, and I hope now in the future with Wojtek, being able to support you, to support this drive of the industry. No other industry has the vision. No other industry has the flexibility that we need to guarantee that transportation will carry on, to be able to talk to people from 50 different countries in a port. Ship chandlers, freight forwarders, shipping companies, ship owners, they have a flexibility that we need. They have the flexibility to accommodate new solutions, to go for new ones. And don't forget that Europe, as Nigel said, is the largest trading bloc in the world. We have to renew the luster of European shipping, to renew our cultural ties that are related to shipping. That's what we should do, so that Europe has a brilliant future. Don't forget that security of supply is the world. You know, it's not by accident Marco Polo's thing stopped because there was no security of supply, or there was a better security of supply. So we need to keep the Atlantic as the main source. Why? Because keeping the Atlantic open, connecting 3 continents, you will keep all the other routes open. I would hate to have to vote all the times for Azerbaijan winning European Song Contest so that they will allow containers to pass through Azerbaijan. So I like Baku very much, but I like Europe better. So if you want to keep the routes open, back up shipping, okay? And it's a peanut, the investment that we are doing compared to what it is being done in railways. And now that I'm retired, I can say, well, railways was born with subsidies and probably will die with subsidies.
Thanks, Jose. I'd like to, very briefly, as a final contribution to the session, I'd like to ask Lord Prescott for a brief final comment, because after all, we hope it won't, but if things go badly tomorrow, this may be the last time either of us are invited to the European stage.
Hello, yeah. Yes, just to make a quick point, Mr. Grimaldi made some very powerful points, and it struck me that what he was saying is the traditional ways that we want shipping to make a contribution to low carbon is the traditional ways. Get better engines, more efficient, different fuel. And he was saying, really, when you look at our emissions and the cost we're paying for it, could it be done a different way? And he was suggesting that argument, and I think that's what's being suggested here. For example, I tried to argue about a northern corridor missing, that going from Liverpool right over to Hull up to the Baltic, and that's what trade is changing. But if you look what you save on lorries he was talking about, what lorries were costing us, there's a report in Britain come out today saying 50% of the lorries on the road are empty, causing a massive amount of carbon. So we need to start looking at the total picture, and I think what would change that way, and governments now have accepted a target, as I said, on cutting carbon. Now when they have to reach that target and actually achieve that, it's going to have different ways of integrating transport in different ways, and what shipping's only one part, the ports are the other, and this report we've done is how you look at the regions. So if you look at the total picture and begin to judge the actual priorities, it may well be on how much you could reduce low carbon and what is necessarily the cheapest or the most costly way to do it. And what he's suggesting, and I think you did as well, about the research, we need to start thinking in a more wholesome way of how we achieve the overall target instead of just putting a very heavy burden in a small part of the sector. I think that's the question being posed for us now. So we need the research to do that. I hope that will happen. But I think if it's possible, as you asked for, Joseph, for that information he was given somehow to be circulated, could start a proper debate of how we deal with the low carbon problem, to which governments have actually committed themselves, and the market way might not necessarily the best way, but working with the industry, we solve the problem without putting the heaviest burden on those where it is most costly to achieve it, when you could do it a different way. Use the Northern Corridor, we're very useful right up to the Baltic, and we can show you again a more efficient way to move things. But I think this whole business of committed to low carbon is going to change a lot of the priorities. And that one contribution by Mr. McGraw, anyway, went on, but it's powerful in all sectors. So I hope we'll see there is change in a fundamental way, which will change the whole priority of investments, the whole role of the integration of our transport system. Because after all, don't forget, when I might be talking about my government, it's a European target that's committed to actually reduce it, and that's why we need to see what transport can do, and needs a greater environmental dimension on this decision of the motorways. Put the green on, Josie, and I'll make a better contribution.
Thanks. So many items to discuss, so much work to do. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much to our panelists.
Staying alive for 2 hours. That was